Pay attention to this. A woman and a teenage girl walk toward a house in the afternoon. The woman's hand is on the girl's shoulder. She looks around. They go inside. Only the woman comes out. This woman is her stepmother. She's been living with them for 2 years. She helped her with homework. She drove her to school. She held her when she cried about her dead mother. And what nobody knew is that this woman had been waiting for this moment for over 20 years. She was there first. Before the mother, before the daughter, before any of it. And she spent 2 decades making sure she would be there last. This is the story of a woman who never let go. And when you understand how long she waited, you'll never look at your father's past the same way again. Welcome back to The Last Moment. I'm your host, and today we're examining a case where security camera footage captured the final 11 seconds of a teenage girl's life. And the person who ended it had been planning it for 22 years. Melanie Berkeley was 17 years old, senior at Westwood High School in Chattanooga, Tennessee. She had a 3.7 GPA. She ran cross-country. She wanted to study forensic psychology. Her friends described her as curious, the one who always asked questions, the one who noticed things others missed. The one who couldn't let something go once it caught her attention. That last part is what got her killed. On October 19, 2024, Melanie came home from school with her stepmother, Beverly Humbert. A security camera from a neighbor's Ring doorbell captured them walking toward the house together. 11 seconds of footage. Beverly's hand resting on Melanie's shoulder. Beverly glancing left, then right. Both of them entering through the front door. After those 11 seconds, Melanie Berkeley was never seen alive again. Her stepmother called the police 3 hours later, saying Melanie had vanished from her bedroom. Window open, phone on her bed, shoes by the door. The question everyone asked was, where did she go? But that was the wrong question. The right question was, who was Beverly Humbert before she became Melanie's stepmother? And the answer had been hidden for 23 years. Let me take you back to 2001. A summer camp in the Great Smoky Mountains. Kids from all over Tennessee and North Carolina. 2 16-year-olds meet during the first week. His name was Mitchell Parra, from Knoxville. Her name was Beverly Humbert, from Knoxville. Same city. Different high school. They spent 3 weeks together that summer. By the end of camp, they were inseparable. What started at that camp continued for 6 years. Long-distance calls every night. Visits on weekends when they could manage. Mitchell would drive across town. Beverly would meet him halfway. They made it work the way teenagers in love make things work. Desperately, obsessively. The kind of love that feels like the entire world. Mitchell never brought Beverly home to meet his family. Not because he was hiding her, because their time together was limited and he didn't want to waste it on family dinners. His parents knew he had a girlfriend from the other side of town. They'd heard her name. They'd never seen her face. That detail will matter later. For 6 years, Mitchell and Beverly planned their future. After high school, they'd both move to Nashville, go to Vanderbilt together, get an apartment, get married, have kids. Beverly had it all mapped out. She was already looking at wedding venues when they were 20. And then in the summer of 2008, Mitchell went to a party without her. One party, one night, one mistake. Her name was Pauline Williams. She was a friend of a friend. Mitchell was drunk. Pauline was there. It happened once. One time, but once was enough. 3 weeks later, Pauline told Mitchell she was pregnant. And in 2008, in their small town with their traditional families, there was only one option. Mitchell's parents sat him down. Pauline's parents sat her down. There would be a wedding. There would be a family. Mitchell would do the right thing. And Beverly Humbert would be left behind. Mitchell broke up with Beverly on a Wednesday afternoon in September 2008. He drove to her apartment to tell her in person. He told her about the pregnancy. He told her about the wedding. He told her he was sorry. He told her he didn't have a choice. Beverly didn't scream. She didn't cry. She sat there and listened to every word. When he finished, she looked at him and said, "I understand." And then she said something else. She said, "This isn't over." Mitchell thought she meant they'd stay friends. That wasn't what she meant. Here's what happened next. Mitchell married Pauline in November 2008. Small ceremony, family only. Beverly wasn't invited. She was supposed to disappear from Mitchell's life forever. But 4 weeks after the wedding, she sent him a message. Just to talk, just because they'd been together for so long. Mitchell should have ignored it. He didn't. They met at a diner halfway across Knoxville. Then they met at a motel. Then they met at a cabin Beverly had found near Norris Lake, 45 minutes from town, far enough that no one would see them. Beverly had rented it with money she'd saved. Eventually she bought it. A place that belonged only to them. And for the next 14 years, Mitchell Parra lived 2 lives. Monday through Friday, he was a husband and father in Chattanooga. He went to work. He came home to Pauline and Melanie. He pretended to be present. But twice a month, sometimes more, he drove to that cabin. And Beverly was always there waiting. Patient. She had built her entire life around those visits. Beverly stayed in Knoxville after Mitchell's wedding. She got a job as a nurse at University of Tennessee Medical Center. She was good at it. Caring, attentive, patient. The same qualities that made her wait 14 years for a man who kept promising to leave his wife. She worked. She lived alone. She never dated anyone else. She never married. She never had children. Her co-workers thought she was dedicated to her career, private, independent. They didn't know that twice a month she drove 45 minutes to a cabin in the woods to meet a married man. They didn't know that she'd been in love with the same person since she was 16 years old. They didn't know that she was waiting. Always waiting for Mitchell to leave Pauline, for Mitchell to choose her, for the life she'd been promised when she was 17 years old. But Mitchell never left. He always had an excuse. Melanie was too young. The timing wasn't right. Pauline would take everything in the divorce. He needed more time. 14 years of more time. And Beverly's patience started to turn into something else. Let me tell you what Pauline Williams' life looked like for 14 years. She knew something was wrong. She felt it. Mitchell was distant, distracted. He had work trips that didn't quite add up. He was never fully present even when he was home. She asked him once if there was someone else. He said no. She didn't believe him, but she had no proof, and she had Melanie. Her daughter was everything to her. So Pauline stayed. She made the best of a marriage that felt hollow. She told herself that maybe all marriages felt this way. After a while, she told herself that Mitchell was a good father, even if he wasn't a great husband. She told herself a lot of things to get through the days. Pauline also suffered from chronic migraines. Bad ones, the kind that put her in bed for days. She'd had them since her early 20s. The medication was expensive. Insurance covered some, but not all. It was a constant financial stress on top of everything else. One day, Mitchell came home with a solution. His friend from work knew someone who could get the medication cheaper. Much cheaper. Pauline didn't ask too many questions. The pills looked the same. They worked the same. And they saved the family hundreds of dollars a month. What Pauline didn't know was that there was no friend from work. The medication came from Beverly. She stole it from the hospital where she worked. She told Mitchell she was doing him a favor, helping him save money, being useful. Mitchell thought it was generous. He thought Beverly was showing him that she could be part of his life in ways that helped his family. He didn't know that Beverly was adding something to those pills before she gave them to him. Digoxin, a heart medication. In small doses over time, it accumulates in the body. It causes fatigue, nausea, heart palpitations, confusion, and eventually cardiac arrest. Beverly was a nurse. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew exactly how long it would take, and she knew that no one would ever connect the dots. January 2022. Melanie was 14 years old. Pauline was 35. That winter, Pauline started feeling tired. Not regular tired. Deep exhausted. She went to the doctor. Blood tests, exams. Everything came back normal, but the fatigue got worse. Then came the nausea, then the heart palpitations, then the confusion and dizziness. Her doctor ran more tests. Still nothing conclusive. They adjusted her other medications and gave her supplements, told her to rest. Nothing helped because Pauline kept taking her migraine medication. The same pills she'd been taking for over a year. The pills that were slowly killing her. In March 2022, Pauline collapsed in the kitchen. Melanie found her on the floor when she came home from school. Paramedics arrived in 9 minutes. She was pronounced dead at the hospital. Cause of death, cardiac arrest. She was 35 years old with no history of heart problems. The doctors called it sudden cardiac death. But not unheard of. Sometimes the heart just stops. Sometimes there's no explanation. Nobody thought to test for digoxin. Nobody connected her death to her migraine medication. Nobody suspected murder. Mitchell was devastated. Melanie was destroyed. And Beverly Humbert was patient. She waited. She didn't reach out right away. She knew how these things worked. She'd been planning this moment for 3 years. 9 months after Pauline's death, Mitchell started seeing someone new. That's what he told his family. A woman he'd met through a grief support group. Her name was Beverly. She was a nurse from Knoxville, kind, understanding. She knew what loss felt like. Mitchell's family welcomed her. They'd never met the Beverly from summer camp. They'd heard the name 20 years ago, but they'd never seen her face. Mitchell had never brought her home. So when this Beverly walked into their lives, nobody recognized her. Why would they? It had been over 2 decades. People forget. People move on. Except Beverly never forgot. Beverly never moved on. And now she was inside the house, sleeping in the bed that used to be Pauline's, cooking in the kitchen where Pauline had collapsed, raising the daughter that should have been hers. For 2 years, Beverly Humbert played the role of loving stepmother. She quit her job in Knoxville, moved to Chattanooga full-time. She was patient with Melanie. She helped with college applications. She learned Melanie's schedule and preferences and fears. She did everything right. Almost everything. Because Beverly kept one thing from her old life. In her wallet, behind her driver's license, she kept a photograph. A photo booth strip from 2005. For tiny pictures of her and Mitchell at 17, smiling, kissing, making faces at the camera, young and in love, and certain about their future. Beverly had carried that photo for 19 years. She couldn't let it go. It was proof that she was there first. Proof that Mitchell had belonged to her before he belonged to anyone else. She kept it hidden, but she kept it close. That was a mistake. September 11, 2024. 6 days before Melanie disappeared. It was a Sunday afternoon. Mitchell was at the hardware store. Melanie needed cash for a school trip. She asked Beverly, but Beverly was in the shower. So Melanie did what any teenager would do. She went to Beverly's purse to grab a 20 from her wallet. She opened the wallet. She looked behind the cash and she found the photograph. For pictures of her father, young, maybe 17, with a girl who looked exactly like Beverly. Kissing. Melanie stared at that photo for a long time. She didn't understand at first. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe Beverly just looked like someone her dad used to know. But Melanie was curious. The one who noticed things others missed. The one who couldn't let something go. That night she searched online. She found old yearbook photos from schools in Knoxville. She found Beverly Humbert. Same face, same smile, same person. Her father's girlfriend from when he was a teenager was now her stepmother. And nobody had ever mentioned it. Not her father, not Beverly. Why would they hide that? What else were they hiding? Melanie didn't confront them right away. She watched. She listened. She noticed how Beverly looked at her sometimes. Not with love. With something else. Something like resentment. She noticed how her father acted around Beverly. Guilty, nervous, like he was always apologizing for something. And she started thinking about her mother. How tired she'd been before she died. How sudden it was. How the doctors never really explained it. Melanie wasn't a detective. She was a 17-year-old girl. But she knew something was wrong. She told her best friend Chloe on September 14th. She said, "I found something weird." She said, "I think my stepmom knew my dad before." She said, "Something doesn't feel right about how my mom died." Chloe told her to talk to her father. Melanie said she needed more proof first. She said she was going to look around the house, see if she could find anything else. That was September 14th. October 19th was the last day anyone saw her alive. Before we go any further, if you're still watching, you need to subscribe to The Last Moment right now. Hit that button, turn on notifications, because this case gets darker than you can imagine. Drop a comment and tell me, would you have confronted your stepmother or stayed quiet? Like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Alright, back to what happened. What happened on October 19, 2024? Here's what investigators believe. Melanie came home from school with Beverly around 3:45 p.m. Mitchell was at work. The security camera shows them walking toward the house together. What happened inside is based on evidence found later. At some point that afternoon, Beverly discovered that Melanie had been looking through her things. Maybe Melanie confronted her. Maybe Beverly noticed the photo had been moved. Maybe Melanie said something that revealed she knew. Whatever triggered it, Beverly made a decision. She'd waited 23 years for this life. She'd killed one obstacle already. She could eliminate another. Melanie was found 7 days later in a cabin near Norris Lake, the same cabin where Beverly and Mitchell had been meeting for 14 years. She had been strangled. Her body was hidden in a storage room beneath the floor. Beverly had kept the cabin all these years. She'd never told Mitchell she still owned it. It was her secret place, and it became Melanie's grave. The investigation started with the security camera footage. Beverly was the last person seen with Melanie. Police questioned her immediately. She was calm, cooperative. She said Melanie had gone to her room after they got home. She said she'd taken a shower, and when she came out, Melanie's window was open and she was gone. Same story, same pattern. The grieving stepmother, who had no idea what happened. Detectives might have believed her. Except Melanie's friend Chloe came forward on day 2. She told them about the photograph. She told them about Melanie's suspicions. She told them Melanie thought something was wrong about her mother's death. That changed everything. Detectives started digging into Beverly Humbert's background. They found her employment records at University of Tennessee Medical Center. They found the cabin near Norris Lake that had been in her name since 2010. They got a warrant. They drove out there. The cabin was remote, surrounded by trees, no neighbors for half a mile. The kind of place where no one would hear anything. They found Melanie's body on October 26, 7 days after she disappeared. She was in a storage room beneath the floor. She had been strangled, and she had been there the whole time while her father was on television begging for information, while the community organized search parties, while Beverly stood next to Mitchell holding his hand and crying on camera. Melanie was 45 minutes away under the floorboards of her stepmother's secret cabin. Forensics swept the property for days. They found Melanie's DNA throughout the cabin. They found something else, too. In a bedroom closet, hidden behind old clothes, they found a box. A box that Beverly had kept for 23 years. Inside were photographs. Beverly and Mitchell as teenagers at summer camp. Beverly and Mitchell at the cabin over the years. Printed photos organized by date going back to 2009. And in a separate envelope, for photographs of Pauline Williams. Not family photos. Surveillance photos. Pauline at the grocery store. Pauline at Melanie's school. Pauline in her own kitchen, taken through a window. Beverly had been watching her for years before she died. Investigators reopened Pauline's death as a homicide. They exhumed her body. New toxicology found traces of digoxin, a heart medication Pauline had never been prescribed. They traced the migraine medication Mitchell had been bringing home for years. They found records of Beverly accessing digoxin at the hospital. Small amounts spread over months, enough to kill someone slowly without raising suspicion. Someone had been poisoning Pauline Williams for over a year. Someone who had access to hospital medications. Someone who was sleeping with her husband and waiting for her to die. The perfect murder disguised as a favor. Beverly Humbert was arrested on October 28, 2024. She was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Melanie Berkeley and Pauline Williams, 2 women who stood between her and the life she believed she deserved. Mitchell Parra was questioned for weeks. Investigators wanted to know if he was involved. He wasn't. He was guilty of infidelity. Guilty of lying to his wife for 14 years. Guilty of bringing poison into his home thinking it was medicine. Guilty of bringing his mistress into his family and letting her raise his daughter. But he didn't know about the murders. He didn't know Beverly had contaminated the pills. He didn't know she'd killed Melanie. When detectives showed him the surveillance photos of Pauline, he broke down completely. He thought his wife died of natural causes. He thought he was helping her by getting cheaper medication. He thought he was lucky to find love again with Beverly. He thought his daughter's death was a random tragedy. Learning that the woman he'd loved since he was 16 had murdered his wife and daughter destroyed him. Mitchell testified at the trial. He told the whole story. The summer camp, the long-distance relationship, the pregnancy that ended it, the affair that lasted 14 years, the cabin, the medication, everything. He sat on the witness stand and admitted to every lie he'd ever told. He admitted that he never loved Pauline the way she deserved. He admitted that he'd been thinking about Beverly on his wedding day. He admitted that he'd been with Beverly the week before Pauline died. When the prosecutor asked him if he felt responsible, he said yes. Not for the murders. For creating the conditions that made them possible. For keeping Beverly close all those years. For feeding her obsession instead of ending it. For carrying poison into his own home with his own hands. For choosing his selfish needs over his family's safety. Mitchell Parra is not facing charges, but everyone in Chattanooga knows his name. Everyone knows what he did. Everyone knows that his affair created the obsession that killed his family. He has to live with that. During the trial, Beverly Humbert showed no emotion. She sat in the courtroom with the same patient expression she'd worn for 23 years. Witnesses came forward. Co-workers who remembered her asking about digoxin dosages. A pharmacist who remembered her researching cardiac medications. The evidence was overwhelming. But what haunted the jury most was the box from the cabin. 23 years of photographs organized by date. A shrine to an obsession that never died. When the prosecutor asked her why she did it, she said something that silenced the room. She said, "I was there first. I was there before Pauline, before Melanie, before any of it. Pauline took what was mine. Melanie was never supposed to exist. I just corrected a mistake that happened 23 years ago." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on both counts. Life without parole. She'll die in prison. But before she was sentenced, she looked at Mitchell in the gallery. She looked at him the same way she'd looked at him when they were 16 years old at summer camp. Like he was the only person in the world. Like nothing else mattered. And she said, "I'd do it again." Mitchell collapsed in his seat. The man who had spent 14 years sneaking away to meet her. The man who had brought her into his home to raise his daughter. The man who had carried her poison to his wife with his own hands. He finally understood what his choices had cost. Everything. If this case disturbed you as much as it did me, do me a favor. Subscribe to The Last Moment. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to understand how dangerous obsession can be. Comment below and tell me what you think Mitchell's punishment should be, even though he's not in prison. I read every single comment. Think about what it takes to wait 23 years. Think about the patience required to watch the person you love marry someone else, have a child with someone else, build a life with someone else, and never let go, never move on, never accept that it's over. Most people would grieve and eventually heal. Beverly Humbert didn't grieve. She planned. She used her nursing degree to learn how to kill without being caught. She used her access to medication to poison a woman who had done nothing wrong except fall pregnant at the wrong time. She waited for her moment. And when Pauline finally died and Mitchell finally brought her into his home, she didn't see it as a second chance. She saw it as a correction. She was putting things back the way they should have been. Melanie wasn't an innocent girl who lost her mother. Melanie was evidence of Mitchell's betrayal. Evidence that he'd chosen someone else, even if only for one drunken night. Every time Beverly looked at Melanie, she saw Pauline. She saw the pregnancy that ruined her life. She saw 23 years of waiting. And she decided to erase it all. Melanie Berkeley knew something was wrong. She found the photograph. She did the research. She told her friend that something didn't feel right. She was going to find the truth. And that's exactly what got her killed. If she'd never looked in that wallet, if she'd never found those photos, if she'd kept her suspicions to herself, maybe she'd still be alive. Or maybe Beverly was always going to eliminate Melanie eventually. Maybe it was never a question of if, but when. Beverly had waited 23 years to have Mitchell completely to herself. She wasn't going to share him with the ghost of Pauline Williams. And she wasn't going to share him with Pauline's daughter either. Pay attention to who your parents dated before they met each other. Pay attention to the relationships that ended badly. Pay attention to the person who never moved on. Because sometimes love doesn't let go. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it watches. And sometimes it decides that if it can't have what it wants, it will simply remove everything in its way. Beverly Humbert loved Mitchell Parra when she was 16 years old. She still loved him when she was 39. And that love killed 2 people. Pauline Williams never knew the woman who was poisoning her. She trusted her husband when he brought home medication to help her. Melanie Berkeley never knew her stepmother was her father's first love. She trusted the woman who drove her to school and helped with homework. They trusted the people in their lives. They trusted their husband. They trusted their father. And they both died because of it. If you're living in a blended family, if your parent remarried, if there's someone new in your home, ask questions. Look at old photographs. Pay attention to what doesn't feel right. Because Melanie paid attention. Melanie noticed, and she was killed for it. But at least she knew the truth before she died. Her mother never even got that.